Welcome back to Real Pod, everyone. Today, it's a chaotic life update. I hope you know them. I hope you love them. I hope you look forward to them. And I hope they don't drive you too crazy as you listen to me ramble and bounce between a million different topics that are on my mind. I always love to do these every few months. My last one was in January, and I thought that it was time to just kind of check back in, a little bit of a bestie chat. My hope with these is that it feels like I'm on speakerphone and I'm yapping while you are doing your laundry, driving to work, walking, doing your dishes, and we can just kind of be BFFs as we are, you know? So, boy, do I have a lot to talk to you about today. Just to give you a little feeler of what's to come in this episode, we're going to talk about things I feel like I've outgrown, a mental health check-in. I'm going to tell you about a big breakthrough that Max and I had in our marriage. I want to revisit the Ozempic conversation because I've had some changes of heart, if you will. I want to tell you about my hair journey that I'm on. I want to do a check-in on intuitive eating, what I've been noticing about my eating patterns recently. I want to talk about how I'm doing with my whole energy shift for the new year that I told you about last time. So we're going to go all over the place, but it's going to be fun. And we're going to learn some stuff and we're going to get closer, which I love. So the first thing I'll touch on is today has been quite a day. I feel like when people say they're putting out fires at work, that's how it has felt for me today. And honestly, recently, as I've been working on this new special project for my business. If you're a VGB VIP and you're in the broadcast channel on Instagram, Bubbles, you would know that I've been working on something and I've been sending you my little secret lock emoji as the keyword Easter egg. And it's definitely a lot of work and it's difficult to start something from scratch. But as I say that, I'm like, well, I have Real Pod, my current business, and The Hidden Opponent. And why do I feel like none of them were as hard as this? It's not even like that big of a thing, or it sounds like a simple undertaking when you eventually find out what it is. But I just care so much about the details and I want it to be perfect for you. And I want to love it too. If there's anything I've learned about creating things and marketing and just this influencer and kind of consumer but follower community industry, it's if you are not obsessed with it yourself and you don't want to use it every day or wear it every day, like with my jewelry collection, I feel like when I created those pieces with Tara, Beads by Tara, I was like, I want to wear these every day. Like I want this to be my go-to summer jewelry because I know that if that's how I feel about it, then that's almost the most important thing because then I know my community and my followers who were already so similar in general, right? I feel like we're talking and connecting with each other every single day. They'll love it too. Versus I feel like when I first started out in my career, I was like, oh, I should do hoodies because like every YouTuber I follow does hoodies, but I don't love hoodies. I don't know. I don't love a hood. I like a crew neck. I like a V-neck. I like a quarter zip, but I didn't care. I was like, that's okay. People want hoodies. Other people want hoodies. So I created hoodies. They did fine, but they didn't crush it. And I think it was because, I didn't love it myself as much as I should have. So couple that with my perfectionism, and we've been hitting a lot of walls. Jenna, my fabulous brand director, God bless her soul. What a patient queen. What a beautiful queen. We have our jokes where I'll be like, so I have a thought. And she'll look at me and just like take a huge deep breath because it's like no one knows what my thought's about to be. It's about to completely like turn everything on its head. But how I've been trying to take care of my mindset throughout a process like this, because it can be very defeating when you set out for a goal and it's just not happening as fast as you wanted, or you're having way too many speed bumps. Actually, the kind of analogy that I've been thinking about with this project is like I fueled my car all the way up with gas and I packed up for what I thought this adventure would be. And now like I'm out of all my gas, I'm out of all the supplies in the car, and we're having to do a complete like regroup to have this car drive double the distance I thought it would need to drive in the first place. Does that make sense? And that can be defeating. You could feel like, ugh, what's the point of this? Should I throw the towel in? Why did I make this mistake or this decision along the way? And don't get me wrong, like I've had those days throughout this process where I'm like, ugh, and I think negatively and I get down on myself and I feel like it would be easier to just like give up. But I've really had some time to reflect and use this as an opportunity to be mentally strong and to see the glass half full. And this phrase that I've been calling on is everything is redirecting me to a better result. These little speed bumps, these changes, this not being available, so we're pivoting to that, whatever it is, I'm telling myself that this is all redirecting me towards the better end game. I'm really trying to trust the process and believe in the process and tap more into that spiritual side I've been telling you I've wanted to tap into more. So that's really been helping me is like, for example, there was a color that I really wanted to use and they don't have the color. And so we've shifted to this different color, but I'm starting to love it. I'm like, wait, I actually think this color is way better. And this color is bringing this idea out for me and it's doing XYZ thing. And so that's been a really fun exercise for me, is trying to trust in the universe, in the process, and that it's all going to lead me to a version of me who will have learned a lot and will be finding success, no matter if it's on paper or it's just in what I've learned. So if you are similarly feeling down about some process in your life, join me in embracing the redirection and believing it will take you somewhere better. I also said in my last Chaotic Life update that a big theme for me in 2025 was this like shift of my energy to being calmer and to being more settled and kind of more in my power. And I wanted to check in on that because I feel like it's really been going well. And as I was kind of journaling about, how to talk about this today, I've realized that something that I had to do to allow myself to be in more of this grounded and peaceful place was to have a zero tolerance for chaos. And obviously that sounds obvious, right? Like if you want peace in your life, get rid of the chaos. But I think there are little things that like we engage in or we do, and they could be patterns or habits that create the chaos and the unsettledness in our own lives. And as I think about like the steps I've taken and the energy and space I'm trying to curate for myself, it really has been like zero tolerance for chaos. And obviously that can refer to, external factors like other people or going to it someplace or saying yes to a project or signing on to something. Like I think there's the external, but then I think there's the internal, and it's like what you engage in and your routines and how you show up and what you respond to. And I've even noticed it's almost like, have you seen those TikToks? I actually made a video like this once, and it was to the Ariana Grande "We Can't Be Friends" song, which is a banger. But she goes, "Me and my truth, we sit in silence." And it's like quiet. And like there's this trend where it was about what your truth is in that moment. And my take on the trend was like when you're typing a really angry text and then you take a beat and you like delete the text and you just say like, okay, or you say, got it, or you say, we're seeing this differently, but I'm wishing you the best. And you like proceed. And I think I've noticed myself be really great at evolving and not kind of getting in the weeds of other things. I mean, I feel like, especially with my family, I'm definitely, I don't want to say I'm the heart because my mom's the heart of the family for sure, but I think I'm the glue. And sometimes that can be a lot because you want to make sure that all the pieces you're gluing together are like fitting correctly and they're working well. And that can sometimes just like totally drain you. And you can't be in everyone else's relationships and meddle into things all the time, because then I'm causing myself stress and I'm like inserting myself into a situation that like I don't have to be in, right? So, I mean, that's a small example, but I think almost every day, definitely every week, situations arise where we can engage in chaos or we can diffuse. And I don't mean to be avoidant or to suppress. I think there's a difference between avoiding things or suppressing them and moving past them by having the conversation in your own head. For example, I was texting with someone and they sent a text that like triggered me and disappointed me. And I could have written back something that was like, I can't believe you said that, or you still think that, or I'm so disappointed, or I would think by now it would be different. I could have gone that route, but instead I took a beat and I took a deep breath and I was like, you know what? I love this person. This is their flaw. This is the thing that we differ on. Can I accept that? I can accept that. And I can have my boundaries of where, when it comes to this topic, we won't talk about it. Or when it comes to this thing, we won't go together, right? I love you and I want to accept this difference, and I want to proceed in a way that makes sense for me and is like healthy for me and my energy and keeps us close, right? So that's an example of something that happened recently where I like took a deep breath and I was just like, if that's the way you're going to look at it, what did I say? I think I said, this is a little bit more sassy than me sitting here on my high horse of enlightenment, but it fit the context. But I said, if that's the story you're going to tell yourself, there's nothing I can do about it. And I put some hearts. And I think that was just saying like, you know what? We look at this differently, but I'm not going to like leave you on red. And the person sent a heart and was like, I don't want to fight. And we just move forward. But those are the little choices I've made that limit the chaos, because let's play out the other scenario. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I start crying. And then I say, I can't believe this. And then I say, that's it. And then I come home and I tell Max all about it. And then I'm upset. And then I wake up the next morning and I'm thinking about, do I text them? Do I not? Like, you know what I mean? I'm just not choosing that path anymore. And actually something funny is watching Love Island this season. I don't know how many of you guys are watching it. I feel like with reality TV, it's like splits my audience in half. I feel like 50% of my audience is like, yeah, we watch reality TV, we do all the pop culture stuff. And then the other 50% is like, no, like, I don't know what that is. I would never watch it. So I never really know like where people fall. But Love Island this year has been almost so toxic and so much drama that I noticed that on the nights I watch it, I'm like feeling the stress and the anger, like especially in the beginning of the season when certain people were getting eliminated or things were happening, I would be upset. Like I would really be upset at it because I'm like, this is so incorrect, right? And I saw these videos that were like, I need to touch grass because I am so emotionally invested in reality TV. That was me. And so I noticed on the nights that I wasn't watching it, I actually felt better. And that was just another small pointer of like how easily we can be affected by drama and chaotic situations and really just wanting to protect like my own, nervous system and my calm. I want to have my bubble of calm. And I can't recommend it enough. It is very peaceful and enjoyable to not have a lot of drama in your life. We're going to take a quick break and then come back with a mental health update. My mental health is in a really good place. I've been thinking about this a lot recently where I haven't needed to post about like feeling depressed, and I haven't posted recently about feeling really anxious. And at the new gym I'm training at, you check in on a few things about like your sleep and your soreness, and one of the levers is stressed to relaxed, and I'm always going to relaxed. And the trainer's like, are you ever going to be stressed? And I was like, I kind of feel like it's a choice. Like I walk in here, I'm in my workout clothes, we're about to work out. If I'm swiping it all the way to stress, like I kind of feel like that's on me. Like I want to at least manifest or choose that for this hour, I want to be like present and relaxed. Granted, I've had many times in my life where, I could not flip off my stress or anxiety, but currently I'm feeling very centered and it's awesome. And I did have a cry yesterday in the car. I'm doing so well. I'm awesome. So yesterday I was sobbing in the car, but it was like, it's a good sob. Like I had therapy, and it was one of those sessions where like you think you have nothing to talk about and then so much comes up, or you don't really want to address it, but then you just do because you're like, ugh, I'm here and I'm paying for it, so I need to talk about this. And so then when I left, I was just kind of letting more of those realizations out, but it was healthy and it was a good cry. And it still is not affecting how I feel like my overall state of my mental health is right now. So I feel good to be in a good spot. And I think a lot of that is the way that I'm, carefully curating my balanced life at the moment. I have definitely been struggling a little bit, especially with social media, with thinking nobody cares. Like I think when I go to post, I'll have this voice in my head that's like, nobody cares. And sometimes when I don't post for like a day or two, I wonder like, does anyone miss my page? Like, do they miss me? Like, if I just disappeared from the internet, like, would anyone give a you know what I mean? I don't feel that way about life. Like, I definitely feel like my life, I know that I'm loved and I want to show up every day, and it's not that dark. I just mean like social media wise, sometimes I feel like, yeah, I don't want to say lost, but you know this about me from listening to Real Pod for so many years, hopefully. And I talked about this in my I think I'm having an identity crisis episode, I think a few years ago, where I tend to put myself in a box. And I think my mind's been trying to pull me back into that. Like, Are you the nonprofit founder? Are you a maid of honor for your best friend? Are you a wife? Are you a content creator? Are you funny? Are you inspiring? Are you supposed to be educational? Like, I definitely think I like to have things be definitive. And so, of course, my mind's going to creep back in with those doubts and try to fight against that gray area. I think I want to share this though, because I feel like there's people who could look at me and be like, oh, well, if my social media career was at the place that hers is at, or if I had this thing or whatever, like I wouldn't struggle with feeling like, what's the point, or does anyone care about what I have to say? And I definitely still have that, and I go through that, and that might make me not post as much one day or to the other, but like it's okay, and I just notice it, and I try not to make it real. Along with that, I did want to share this random observation I've had, because I feel like it could help maybe give you your own breakthrough or something to think about. But I got to this place with my content creation career where I thought like, okay, I need to plan, and every single day I need to have a video that goes up, and I'm going to hire someone who can like help run social media and like help come up with ideas and edit and like post things, and I'm going to make this more of like a well-oiled machine of content. And that had never really been my approach. I'm very intuitive when it comes to content. Like I'll have an idea, and then I'll find the picture and I'll write the caption, or I'll create the video and I'll find the sound. Like that's where I think my best work comes from, is like those sparks of, hey, this is on my heart today and I want to post about it. I think I lose my touch when I try to think about like, here's a post for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week, when I have no idea how I'm going to feel next week. And anyways, when I was in this very structured and planned way of approaching my content, I was very much plateauing. There was not growth, and there wasn't like virality. And it's definitely not all about that for me. Not at all. I feel like once I got to this place where I was happy with the way that my business could run, I was like, I'm more focused on like going deeper into my community and like obviously sustainability than I am just grow. I've said this and I'll say this again, like I don't aspire to be as like well known of a creator as like someone like Alex Earl. I don't know if I could handle the scrutiny and like all of the internet hate. I don't know. Obviously I would find a way, but I guess that's not what I want. I don't want to be like the top number one creator. I think when I think about like people who have businesses or brands that like I admire, I think of like Gabby Bernstein, who's been on the show. Gabby is well known in her own right, and she has this amazing group of people that she helps, and she's successful, but also some of you might be like, I've never heard of her before. She's also of a different generation, so there's that factor. But anyways, I think because I like was expanding my team and focusing on content, I was like, okay, so we should look at the numbers. Like if we're working this hard on it, we should be seeing growth. That's just like A plus B equals C. And it's fine to look for the C if we're constantly adding these things together. And it just was not happening. And then anyways, I made a shift in my business, and I've gone back to not being planned and thought out and not having any help when it comes to content, and just reverting back to like the organic way I became a creator in the first place. And I shit you not, I have gained 50,000 new Instagram followers since removing strategy. Like, isn't that bonkers? And the only reason I like noticed that is because the difference was so significant. Like, unfortunately, I go to my Instagram every day and I can see my follower count and I can see how many people are on the broadcast channel. I promise you that if there was a feature where I could turn off my view of those things, I would. I don't like that. It's just tempting for your brain to get caught up in it, but it's there. And so obviously when it passes a threshold into 500,000 and then it goes up and now it's at 520 or something, whatever, like I see it. And so that was just, this whole thing was wild to me. Like sometimes when we try so hard and we come up with a plan, there's so much strategy and we're like, this is it. It might not get you where you want to go. And ever since I've kind of let go and just been like, you know what, I'm just going to do me and what makes me happy and be intuitive and just trust myself, the growth has happened. So that's just been a cool observation. And I think it speaks to this analogy of like, if you pick up sand in your hand and you try to squeeze on and grasp that sand so tightly, it actually starts like pouring out the side of your fist. But if you let go and you just hold like a gentle cup of sand, you're going to have more there. So for whatever that's worth, take it with a grain of sand. Okay. Now let's talk about me and Max's big marriage breakthrough, because you're our marriage counselor. Not really, but you're our marriage informant. And honestly, I've been inspired to talk more about the hiccups Max and I have and how we work through them after seeing the reaction to the Instagram post I did about Max and I getting on a fight on our little staycation. Like, so many people were really moved by that, and I didn't even give that much information. I was just like, not pictured the big fight we got in, and people were like, wow, this is helpful. And it inspired me to want to share more. So anyways, Max and I had a big breakthrough in our marriage recently, because he had said to me, how does it make you feel that in our 9 years of being together, I've never started a fight? And I'm like, well, you just did with that statement. But really, I got immediately defensive, because I was like, that just doesn't sound like it could make sense. Like, if we're together for 9 years, you've never started a fight. Like, to me, that phrase insinuates you have been not self-aware at times, or you're more problematic than me, or you have more issues than me. Granted, Max didn't say any of those things. That's where my sensitivity and my ego took it. That was the connotation I received. And so I was feeling judged. I was feeling judged by that statement. I, of course, brought that to my therapist, and she brought up a really good point where she was like, she didn't say it this way, but this is how I heard it. Having not ever started a fight is not the flex he thinks it is. AKA, never going to your partner to voice that something has bothered you is incredibly avoidant. Because there's no way that in 9 years of our relationship, Max has not had an issue with me where I've disappointed him, I've upset him, I've done something that I could have been better for him. Of course, that's had to have happened. But if you've never come to me with it, that's actually the issue. And also, I'm not getting the reps at receiving the criticism and having to change for my partner. So anyways, I went back to Max and I was like, babe, this is going to be a game-changing revelation. And I told him, and he was like, wow, he had never thought of it that way. And so that got us thinking. And my therapist too was like, you need to encourage him to come to you, because there's got to be a reason. Maybe he thinks you're going to stiff arm him. You're not going to be receptive. Maybe he thinks it's not worth it, the argument, whatever it is. I, of course, play a role in it as well. And so she was like, I want you to encourage him, even if it's the smallest thing, to come to you and say, hey, this rubbed me the wrong way, or I didn't like the way you did this. To which I start sweating, because that is so scary for me, to have someone I love so much sit me down and be like, hey, you did this wrong. It's for a people pleaser and someone who wants people to only experience goodness with them. It's hard, but that's life. So basically I went to him and I was like, here was the revelation, and I want to encourage you to come to me and tell me if something's bothered you. He was like, wait, what was the text? I actually texted it to my therapist. He said, I said, Max, after hearing he's encouraged to bring his grievances to me, quote, get ready for the fucking show, quote, how many can I have a day, quote, let me get my list. And my therapist said, haha, glad he gets the assignment. So anyways, I told him, I want to really do a good job at this too. I want, when you come to me, I want to validate you. I want to apologize. And I want to make the change. And I think there's room for both of us to grow here. And I said, however, I think that I know myself and my ego. And if I'm just caught completely off guard, I don't think I'm going to be the best version of myself. And granted, that's my own issue. It's not on Max to fix that. I have that reaction. It's on me. However, both of us want to work at this together. I said, if you could just kind of give me a cue, or you could grab my hands, or we could sit down and you could let me know, I'm about to tell you something that you've done that's upset me. I can just take my breath and really prepare to receive that and prioritize him. So he was like, what do you want me to say exactly? And I was like, I don't know. And then he was like, should I call tribal counsel? And then we just started dying laughing, because obviously we're huge Survivor fans. So that's our new thing, where we call tribal counsel. And I'll give you an example of something that happened. Perfect, because it's me and Max. I can give you a concrete verbatim example. I always feel bad when I'm talking in high level situations and I can't give you guys the tea. So here's the tea. It was a week after we had that talk about this revelation, and I had therapy in a few days, and I was like, babe, you simply have to come to me with a grievance, or my therapist is going to be like, you guys didn't work on this. So he was in the office and I was like, you don't have anything? Like, come on. And he was like, well, and then he starts laughing and I was like, what? And he was like, I guess I have something, fine. He's like, but it's not that deep, but like whatever, which is his thing. If you listen to the men's mental health episode, go back. It's so good. Max talks all about his feelings and voicing his emotions. And actually that episode will give you a lot of color on this, but he was like, all right, this was right before the 4th of July. And he said to me something like, oh, I'm making plans with Jimmy, one of our friends, for the 4th of July. Like, I think we're going to figure out something on that Saturday. And my immediate reaction was something like, well, are girls included? Or like, well, I don't want to be left alone on a holiday weekend. Like, my immediate response was almost accusatory. And it was like centering me, and it was like assuming that he would like abandon me or not be thinking of me. And he was just like, I just didn't love that being your first remark. And I wish it could have been like, oh, that sounds awesome. Like, what are you guys planning? And like, you would know that like, of course I'm thinking of you and we would figure it out. I just didn't love that was your first reaction. And I was like, I totally hear that. You're right. I can be better. And that wasn't the best immediate response to your thing, and I'm sorry. And he was like, awesome. And like, it was funny because we were giggling at like, us handling it this way. But that is my update on Max and I's epiphany. And it's been so helpful for us. Like, I can't even tell you how I feel like I've seen us approach conflict so much better since having this revelation. So yeah, there's a win for me and Max as husband and wifey. Okay, we're almost done. You're doing so well with the Chaotic Life update. Thank you for being here. I want to talk about my hair journey. I am on a journey to grow out my hair. I feel so bad. Well, I don't, because like I loved cutting my hair. I had it short for 2 years, I think, because the first time I did my chop was right before Cubby's bachelorette, and they just celebrated their 1-year anniversary. So I think I had it short for about 1.5 years. And I loved it. I'm so glad that I did it. I was just going to say, I feel bad if someone was inspired or influenced by me and they did a chop and they did it like a month ago, and now I'm like on my long grow out my hair journey. But everyone, you're on your own journey, okay? But I did love my chop. And now it's like I got it out of my system and I want to grow it out. So I'm doing a bunch of different things to take care of it. And I want to make a specific video where I talk about all the little things. For example, when I brush my hair, I separate it into 2 sides and then I grab it like a pigtail. If you're watching Real Pod on YouTube, you'll see me doing this. And I brush just the ends and then I brush the top. The reason that I don't pull it all to one side is because it was thinning out the left side of my hair when I did that. So there's that. And then I'm oiling at night. I'm sleeping in a silk bonnet. I'm drinking the Vita Glow collagen packets, which I'm really liking. So I'm doing a few different self-care, hair care things, and I'm really excited about it. And I just got my hair colored, and my girl Josie was like, your hair seems amazing and thick, and my ends are so healthy. I think the oiling my ends has helped. I'm also trying to go heatless as much as possible. So I use my heatless curls and I use heat protectant, and I don't even use a blow dryer or my Dyson Airwrap at the moment while I'm just trying to grow it out and keep it healthy. But I will, and I do when I like go to a wedding or something, which I have coming up. I'll make a video or something on Instagram where I give like all these tips and I link my products and I get into further detail. Okay, so I said that I wanted to talk about Ozempic or retouch on it. And that is true. I have a lot of thoughts. I've had a revelation and then I've had like 2 opposing feelings about it. And it's just like hard to navigate. The first thing is my revelation. I think that when Ozempic was first becoming a thing, which it's so crazy to even think about how a few years ago we had never heard that word. Like it didn't exist. And now it's like GLP-1s feel so mainstream. And I feel like just the other day I got a TikTok ad that was like, oral GLP-1s, no more injections. It's just like constantly evolving, constantly getting like more accessible or like easier, like more shoved down your throat, for lack of a better term. And I feel like something I want to acknowledge is when everything first started coming out, I was for sure triggered and projecting from a place of myself that was angry and felt like this wasn't fair. And there is still that part of me that just screams like, this isn't fair. Major disclaimer, I'm talking about when people who are already thin take this drug to be thinner. So I want to completely exclude from this conversation people who have had health conditions that this has miraculously helped, people who feel like their life has been changed in a positive way, health-wise, from this drug. I know that those people exist, and anything that a woman needs to do to live their best life, I do want to support that. And I'm purely talking about people who use the drug for purely aesthetic reasons, which I also don't want to judge. And I'm trying not to. So that's what my revelation is, right? Is like I'm realizing that I'm triggered because there is a part of me who went through my years of dieting and my years of an eating disorder and being unhappy in my body and crying in dressing rooms and crying after eating and going on these diets and counting my calories. That version of my little self exists inside of me somewhere. And she feels like it's not fair because if this came out, when I was 18, I would have taken it, but instead it didn't. And so I went to therapy and I read the books and I worked on myself and I cried more and I had to recover and then I had to binge and then I had to recover. And like, that was hard. That was a struggle. Okay. And I feel like I'm in an amazing place now. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I was talking about this with my mom the other day. We were talking about this and she was like, telling me and assuring me like just what I've learned and how well I know myself and what I've overcome and how that's such a beautiful thing. And I would never want to go back and just like take this quick fix drug and then not have had my journey. And I wouldn't be here. I literally wouldn't be here because recovering from my eating disorder and body image issues is such a huge part of how I even grew in this space to begin with. So it's just so layered. But I want to just acknowledge that I think that in the beginning, it was very hard for me to like separate my personal feelings and then just like my judgment on it. So I want to like call that out, take accountability for that. I don't feel like I need to apologize. I didn't do anything like wrong or offensive, but I just want to acknowledge as I keep growing and I get curious about myself and I have these conversations, I'm like, yeah, I think in the beginning, I had way more like anger and animosity towards this conversation than I do now because I've been able to kind of process it and accept it more and become desensitized to it because it's everywhere. And then the other pieces of this conversation are, I feel like it's everywhere. I'm just seeing, our favorite celebrities get smaller, influencers who've always looked one way get smaller. There's GLP-1 ads left and right. I feel like skinny talk is back on the rise. I'm seeing so many like toxic diet and workout videos. And after a while, it just like wears at you. And you just can't help but have a little voice that is getting like manipulated and brainwashed by this messaging. Be like, oh, well, then is something wrong with us? Well, then should we lose weight? Well, should we go on a diet? And obviously I've had those struggles for many years in my life. So like, I know that voice exists in my head, even though I have locked it up back in the attic somewhere. And I breathe through it. And I remind myself that that's not the life that I want and that I choose peace with food and peace with my body over anything else. And I know that anything different than my current peace and my intuitive eating and my acceptance of my body is going to be misery for me. It is going to ruin my days, ruin my relationships, ruin my joyous experiences. I know it's going to ruin everything. I've done it and I don't want that, but it's hard and there are hard days. And that's why last week I posted that carousel dump of, 6 body image quotes that have altered my brain chemistry because I just felt like I needed to remind myself and I need to have that reset. And I felt so moved and blown away by how many of you guys were relating to it. I think it has over 600 comments, which is just like amazing that there's 600 humans out there who felt the need to stop their day and write something about how they related to that message and they felt the same. And it makes me feel less alone. But, all I can say is we have to stay strong and recognize that re-engaging in those behaviors is a miserable cycle that does not bring us joy. Although diet culture and skinny culture sells a very promising lifestyle and a magic wand of happiness, it's all an illusion. It's not true. I think back on the times where you were your quote skinniest or you had your closest to your quote dream body. Guess what? I still thought I could get skinnier. I still didn't think I was perfect enough. I still criticized myself. So it's endless. It's an endless pursuit and it's a bottomless pit. And I don't want that for myself. And it is hard to see it all around you. Two things can be true at the same time. But I feel for you. I feel for anyone else out there who feels the same way as me. Maybe you've seen friends do it, your favorite celebrity do it, your favorite influencer do it, and it's hard. And then you feel like you are going through this alone, but you're not. I'm going through it with you. And just like everything, nothing is too good to be true. Okay. So we're currently in a wave right now, and it's this wave, and this wave is hard, but the next wave is coming. And I don't know what that means. We just have to kind of weather the currents together. Wow, I'm really knee deep in this oceanic example. But all I can do is validate it for anyone out there. I get it. I feel the same. And I guess how I'm approaching it is, I want people to live their best lives and feel good in their skin. And however anyone needs to do that, my higher self wants to support it. And then it is hard for the parts of myself that feel wounded and not good enough to be witness to that. And I'm human. And so I'm just figuring it out as I go. But I want to share kind of, my current 2 cents on the whole thing. The last thing I want to touch on is my intuitive eating counseling school. I've been posting about this on Instagram, and some of you had questions. So I just kind of want to share like what that is and why I'm doing it. And also I've noticed, even just re-going through all of the intuitive eating stuff, I feel like I've definitely been eating a little bit out of boredom recently, which is okay. Like, I'm human and that happens. But it's been inspiring to really be going back to the basics of intuitive eating so that I can just like reconnect those fundamentals with myself. But I would say a huge goal of mine that I've always had is that I wished I could wave a wand and have no girls or women experience eating disorders. Obviously men too, and men experience eating disorders. I'm just a girly and I love the girlies, and that's where my heart goes. I think of the middle school girls, the high school girls, the college girls who are battling with their bodies and food, and I want to help them. I want that to not be a thing anymore, because I know what it was like to overcome that myself and just feel like life is so open and there's so much more room for thoughts and ideas and creativity and relationships and love when you're not constantly thinking about food and your weight. And so I've always wanted to create something, whether it's like an app or a course or a community or a speaking circuit, where like I can help women make that adjustment. And basically going back to school, I'm saying that in quotes because I'm not like enrolled in a college or anything like that, but at least Rash and Evelyn Triboulet, who are the creators of intuitive eating, they offer a program where you can become an intuitive eating lay facilitator or an intuitive eating counselor. And I decided that I wanted to educate myself, and I wanted to go rewind, take some steps back, and go through this via the book. I feel like I have all the personal experience and the lived experience, and I want to couple that with the book experience. And so that's why I got my ACSMCPT, and I think it's intuitiveeating.org is their website. And I am going through their online program so I can become an intuitive eating counselor. And then once I get all my education, and I can just step back and be like, all right, now that I know all that there is to know about this, how exactly do I think I can translate this or recommunicate this to help others? So yeah, that's what I'm working on, and I'm very excited about it. It literally lights me up so much. Like, it's also so cool to think that I'm going to be in a place once I pass this all where like I can work one-on-one with people. Like, and I think about that more so with people in my life. Like, when I'm done, I'm going to post or text everyone I know and be like, just so you know, if you ever have issues with food or you're struggling, text me, because I am qualified and trained to help you. And literally nothing would bring me more joy than like granting you peace with food, because that changed my life. So I'm really excited about it. And I hope that in the years to come, as I keep working on this and building this out, that I can help you if it's something that you struggle with, and help get you to a place where you can feel amazing in your relationship with food and your body. Well, would you look at that? We are at time for this chaotic life update. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in and coming back to Real Pod and hearing me yap. I hope that there were some takeaways here, that you were nodding along, or you were entertained, or you learned something, or it got you thinking about something in your own life. That's always my hope. And if you liked this, please leave me a rating and review, because I want to hear your thoughts and your favorite parts, and I just might shout you out on next week's episode. Thanks so much. I'll see you next Wednesday.